This was named the robbery of the century. In the center of Kiev, in daylight, the jewelry store Graff was robbed for 2.5 million euros in gold and diamonds. But what is the most amazing, it was robbed by those who had to protect Ukrainian police and prosecutors. Ukraine, faces of corruption, Graff robbery. This is a unique footage. Prosecutors and investigators robbed the luxury boutique store Graff under the disguise of searching. They are actively supported by SWAT unit. Money, watches, jewelry go into the pockets, socks, pizza boxes and even pants. These are only actors, and where are the organizers? They're patrons. For more than a year, Ukrainian justice has been investigating the notorious case, but none of the robbers has been punished, and the jewelry has never been returned to the owners. Moreover, the people involved in the robbery continue to hold their posts and even have been promoted. Why haven't the uniformed robbers been prosecuted? Why neither courts nor the prosecutor's office want to deal with the Graff case? It's an organized criminal group in the Prosecutor General's office and the City Prosecutor's office. The morning of August 20th, 2014, the employees of the jewelry shop Graff start the working day as usual. Around 11 o'clock, the watchmaker Eduard Berdyaev enters the store. Employees are chatting and none of them suspect that in a few minutes their life will turn into a nightmare. No one realizes that the building is surrounded by a squad unit Sokol. Margarita, an employee of another company located in the same building, is unaware of this. She is distracted from paperwork by a sudden noise behind the door. In a second, masked people in a flak vest break into the office.
They all shouted together, "The building is mine." There were several of them.
Margarita fails to understand what's going on. She had her arms twisted behind her back like a criminal.
I had my arm twisted one, then the other, and was thrown on the table, and I felt something like a barrel of the gun on my back. Well, it was absolutely cruel, indignant. I started to reason, saying, "Guys, I'm just a small woman, I'm 45 kilos. Shame on you. You are twisted my arms. What else are you going to do?"
At this moment, the intercom rings at the Graff's office. And at this time, the emergency car drove up. They came out with a chainsaw, wanted to crash the door. I saw no way out. I let him in. But as soon as the guard opens the door, the SWAT unit breaks in. People in balaclava act swiftly. The guard is immediately thrown on the floor without the slightest possibility to move. They threw me on the floor, put the gun to my back. The SWAT officer hit me on my hand, saying, "If you take the phone, we'll take you to the police station and talk there in a different manner." Having disarmed the guards, the SWAT unit Sokol breaks into the store and the mask show begins. The first thing that comes to the minds of the terrified staff, it's a raider seizure of the store. Police is followed by prosecutors and investigators. Here they are, the main characters of this crime thriller. Pechersk District Prosecutors Kozlov and Savchuk, officers of Pechersk District Police Artsukh, Tsegelnik, Kabernik, Vitko and Zhdanov. The investigators of Pechersk District Police Vasilyeva, Zabuga and witness Filonenko. Having broken into the store, the prosecutors ordered the director to leave the premises. The guys just put me outside saying, "Go away and don't come here anymore," as if I were a stranger. Igor Brykov, director of Crystal Jewelry Company, which owns the Graff store. Director is banned from entering the store until the end of the search, even though by law he must be there. It will become clear later why the prosecutors were so eager to search the premises in the absence of the management. First of all, officers inspect carefully the room and switch all security cameras. they're just vandalized. The question arises, if they have come with the legal search, why would they break the cameras? However, later this will become clear. The story employees are pointed with guns. Women are scared to tears, they do not know what to expect and how to behave.
They're also ordered to turn off all mobile phones at once. The city ATS wires were disconnected.
The staff is ordered to leave personal belongings and leave their working places. They're in panic. They do not understand if it's the police or criminals. No one shows the ID. According to witnesses, an event looks like the legitimate search they leased. Prosecutors are waving some papers, but the reason of the sudden invasion is not explained. Later, the staff found that the store was visited under the pretext of the search. Presumably, Graff sells radioactive watch.
I was forced to sit down at this table where I was for a while.
Only a sales girl, Lena Bludo, is allowed to stay in the hall. Other workers are rudely taken away to the storeroom. People in camouflage entered, armed, masked, and ordered everyone to get out to the corridor. Threatened by guns, all the staff, security guards, cashiers, salespeople are dashed to the storeroom. No phones, no personal belongings are allowed. The questions are not answered. Employees are advised not to make noise, not to try to get out of the storeroom, and the door is locked. 10 people stay in a small room. Employees still do not know that this stuffy room will be their prison until the late evening, where they'll be held with no food or drink. Having got rid of the witnesses, the officers proceed to the official purpose of the visit, to a search, which looked like an act of looting. They enter the offices and warehouses, smashing furniture and shelves. But first, they crash the show windows, while the director offers them the keys to open them. All that comes to the hands, luxury watches, exclusive jewelry with diamonds, earrings, bracelets and necklaces, go into the pockets, socks, inside the shirt and even to underwear in no time. But the apparent ease of the trophy dazzles the robbers. Out of 26 cameras, they find and destroy only 11. Other ones, located in offices, continue to capture the actions of the uniformed robbers. Only these recordings make it possible to initiate a criminal case later. The records show that nobody remembered the purpose of the visit. No one was going to search for the mythical radioactive watches. The officers had neither protective clothing, no instruments for measuring radiation. Here's the prosecutors Kozlov and Savchuk operating in the Graff's office. Having grabbed everything valuable, the prosecutors cede the room to so-called SWAT officers. Athletic guys from Sokol don't lose time in vain and grab all that remains from the master's table: souvenir pants, watch chains, and other expensive accessories. Here the protectors of nation share stolen rings which don't even fit the little finger. Here watches are stuffed into the pockets, and here the officer Alexander Zhdanov, being alone, is carefully hiding valuables into the socks. These recordings show police officer Oleg Vitko already wearing a luxury watch. And here's the smartest witness, Vladimir Filonenko. Leaving, he's hiding something in his pants and gently carries his standard bits in order not to lose the valuables. Officers feel at home during the search. Having found a bar with lit cognac for VIP clients, they empty the bottles with no shame. They also eagerly try cigars kept for special guests of the store.
First they were in balaclavas, then everything was taken off. They had no fear. To crown that, they asked for a tea. Their impudence had no limits.
Robbery is a tedious work. Tired of overwork, officers order pizza by telephone. They eat it right in the central hall, drinking expensive French cognac and wiping their hands on exclusive furniture. Only the movies depict jewelry shop robbers with a glass of whiskey and pizza. In Kiev, it was the reality, in the Graff boutique. They were robbing quietly, confidently, not afraid of anything, and they did not attempt to hide evidence of the crime. It proves only one thing: only performers were here in the shop. Real criminals, patrons, mafia godfathers, they were in the offices at that time. Jewelry from show windows and luxury watches were just a prelude. Prosecutors are interested in personal safes with money and jewels of the founders. Later, it will give reason to assume that the search robbery took place on someone's tip.
They were looking for some kind of basement. I explained to them that there can't be any basement because the store is in the basement. I was told that the emergency service will come, they'll start smashing to destroying and cutting. In fact, at the threshold there were emergency service officers with some appliances, saws and so on. 5 minutes later, crushing of the boutique began in the full sense of the word.
No secret stockrooms or cellars were found. There are no in the store. They just smash walls in vain. The safes are also vandalized with chainsaws. Everything found in the safes, money, luxury jewelry, is sent to the bottomless pockets of prosecutors, into garbage bags, and even pizza boxes. Here is another YouTube star, Pechersk District Police investigator Maria Vasilyeva, meticulously selecting only the most beautiful and expensive jewelry. And here's her colleague, police officer Kopernik. He comes for advice, which watch to take. Maria asks him to look for the items with more diamonds. Here you can see Prosecutor Kozlov taking a pack of $10,000 and hiding it in a pizza box. In several minutes, Vasilyeva does the same. However, an experienced police officer doesn't rely on good luck. The box may be taken by someone. For example, the prosecutor Kozlov. And Maria, being precaution, shifts the stolen money into her purse, a safer place. Glamour of rubies and emeralds deprives raiders of reason. This footage shows Vasilyeva, Zabug and Filanenko stealing jewelry worth a total of 1.2 million years. Elite jewelry is stacked up in garbage bags. The orgy under the guise of a search lasts till the evening. The police have enough time, they rob quietly, confidently, with a full stomach. And no one recalls the stuff closed in the storeroom. All this time, innocent store employees are sitting without food, without water, without telephone. It's August. It's unbearably hot. People suffer lack of air and water. We were locked in the room, no possibility to leave, no water, no toilet, nothing. Among involuntary hostages, there is a watchmaker, 60-year-old Eduard Berlaev. I came to consult a heart surgeon because I have a pacemaker, and the hospital in Donetsk, where I had been consulted, had been bombed. Absence of oxygen and water can cost life to a person with heart disease. It's evident. How could a watchmaker threaten the investigation, and why he was not allowed to go home is unknown. I was frustrated, my heart rate increased, moreover I'm also hypertensive. Edward feels unwell. Colleagues don't know how to help him. They call for help, ask him to let the man to the fresh air, but their cries stay unanswered. Ukraine faces of corruption, Graff robbery. Employees are released only late at night. Exhausted by hunger and thirst, they return to the store, but there they got another psychological blow. They just can't recognize their store.
I cried and asked what you have done because the view was devastating. The office was in complete chaos, everything was ruined, the drawers destroyed, the cabinets overturned.
Items were all over the floor, covered with the foam concrete. When the safes were cut, they were in the toilet, in the waste bins. I had a feeling that there was a tornado here. Igor says that at first he wanted to call the police, but then he realized the nonsense of this step. And then I thought, but why should I call the police? Police has been here and left 5 minutes ago. The outcome of the search in the Graff store. The premises crashed, safes are mutilated, alarm system, telephone network and computers are broken. Personal money of the director Igor Brukov and jewels of the founders Yekaterina Timofeeva and Dmitry Berdansky were stolen. Total loss makes 2.5 million euros. Despite a giant jackpot, the robbers did not hesitate to clean out the pockets and purses of Graff stuff. Why not 100 hryvnias are also money? But the moral trauma of the people locked for 10 hours can't be measured with money.
For a long time I was afraid of people in balaclava, men in civilian clothes.
In winter 2014, many of the store employees supported the revolution. They believed that the new government will stop police lawlessness in the country. Finally, the law will rule in the country. But after such brazen prosecutorial burglary, many are disillusionized to realize that after the revolution nothing has changed. Some are still afraid of executive officers. The next day, the victims of the robbery applied to the Prosecutor General of Ukraine and provide 30 hours of security camera videos. It seemed to be unquestionable evidence. The founders spread the same video on the internet and are not even aware that their nightmare is just beginning. Dmitry Berdansky, founder of Crystal Group Ukraine, which owns the Graff store. Yekaterina Timofeeva, vice president and wife of its owner Dmitry Berdansky, diamond expert, art historian, internationally known jewelry designer. During the robbery, personal jewelry and original jewelry were stolen. As soon as the video appears on the network, store owners get violent threats. They came up and said, either you put out your video and shut up, or you will have big problems. On the 24th, while on the Gorodetsky street near the store, I, Yekaterina, a group of young people stopped near us. One came out and said, hide your videos away, and Sokol sends you their trading. But the founders don't let being threatened. They give video to mass media. The whole country now enjoys watching the activity of prosecutors.
Прокурор, слідчий та міліціонер пограбували ювелірну крамницю в центрі Києва.
А коли побачили коштовності та гроші, стали розсовувати їх по своїх кишенях.
The next day, threatening calls started demanding to give the contacts of journalists who have this recording, with some dubious proposals to Dmitry, asking him to come to some meeting, saying that we will return everything, just to lure the man out of the house without the guard. Threats of prosecutors were so serious that Yekaterina Timofeeva and Dmitry Berdiansky, fearing for the lives of children, were forced to leave the country. This is the child's flak vest. Personally, I'll remember for a long time the little girl who is playing with her dolls in a flak vest. It's awful. In peaceful time, in a European country, in the 21st century. It is a gang of prosecutors, investigators, police officers, SWAT unit so-called. And a whole gang robbed the store. And how the chiefs react to this? They pretend that nothing is happening. The whole country is discussing prosecutors' raid in the internet. It's unreal to hush up the scandal. Moreover, Vitaly Yerema, Prosecutor General, publicly vote to punish the offenders. For a year, investigation played a double play with us. Prosecutors don't betray those from their group. Senior police investigator Viktor Avdeyev, who led the investigation and for the whole year was breaking apart the case. They failed to fulfill many actions in search of a stalling, questioning the prosecutors in my confrontations. The prosecutor's office refused to consider the application of Dmitry Berdiansky and Yekaterina Timofeeva about death threats for publishing a security cam video. All of the threats were so serious that the family fled the country. As it turned out later, the robbery of the century was prepared in detail by the whole group of people in robes and uniforms. 3 months before the robbery, public organization applied to executive authorities, stating that allegedly Graff is involved in selling radioactive and counterfeit products. Here's the application. The All-Ukrainian Non-Governmental Organization of Consumers' Right Protection, coded Public Control of Product Quality and Safety Standards. No address, no details, just a P.O. box, in fact, anonymous letter. We decided to find this organization on the internet. Here it is, All-Ukrainian Non-Governmental Organization of Consumers. But as we see, no address, no license, no email, even no name of the director here. Any student can create a dozen of these fake offices in an hour. Based on these anonymous letters, Pechersk prosecutor's office quickly fabricates a criminal case against the Graff store. Sanctions are signed by Alexander Harlov, Oleg Vasilyev, Alexander Kuzmenko, Sergei Yeldantsev and Pavel Kozlov. Judge Yekaterina Sereda also took part. Who issued a permission for the search without any reason, without any proof, without any evidence, without any suspicious? By the way, right after the Graff robbery, the case on the radioactive watches was closed pretty quickly because of the absence of the applicant. But this didn't influence the investigation into the robbery search. Yeldantsev, Kozlov, Kuzmenko, Vasilyev, Harlov, these people issued the permission to the staff who fulfilled the search, which led to total robbery. Prosecutors Harlov and Vasilyev, who also sanctioned the search, not only escaped but were promoted. A year after robbery, the prosecutor's office imitated some work and arrested one of the participants, Prosecutor Kozlov. He was detained twice and released on tiny bails. The last time, his bail was reduced from 5 million down to 80,000 hryvnias. The Pechersk district judge Vladimir Karaban did his best for former Pechersk prosecutor. Investigation of Graff robbery was hardly moving when in summer 2015 the Prosecutor General Office interfered. Prosecutor General Office arrested 9 out of 10 suspects and identified the residents of 3 who fled: Vitko, Vasilyeva and Filinenko. Before that, the city prosecutor's office was not going to investigate the fact of illegal initiation of the search. So, a year after the robbery, The suspects are detained. In public eye, this is the glory of justice. But Prosecutor General's office, having fulfilled the investigation, presents the case to the Pechersk District Court, which soon releases the robbers on tiny bails. It's a classical vicious circle. Pechersk District Prosecutor's Office, Pechersk District Court and Pechersk District Police invent a motive to search Graff and send their people to the store. The latter, disguised by the search, robbed the store for 2.5 million euros. But stupid enough, they are recorded on security cameras. The actors are arrested, but the trial is due at the same Pechersk district, where everything started. We consider this decision unacceptable. Pechersk prosecutor, Pechersk investigators, and Pechersk police officers are all tried in the Pechersk court. They are one team. There have been 5 hearings already, but bandits and their lawyers don't show up. According to law, the prosecutor can change the detention measure for a more serious one. But here, even prosecutors don't visit the hearings. Prosecutor's office just don't show up, doesn't send anybody, and fails to explain this. My lawyer and I were alone at the hearing. Nonsense. Even the prosecutor didn't come. Not a single person.
Не пришел прокурор, не пришла Васильева, не пришел Витко.
This is an open sabotage. Pechersk court openly doesn't want to deal with the Graff robbery case. 2 judges have dismissed themselves. At the hearing, former prosecutors Savchuk and Kozlov behave as hosts. They openly laugh at both judges and the law of Ukraine. Prosecutor Pavel Kozlov, robber, on bail, now free. Prosecutor Vitaly Savchuk, robber, fired, on home arrest. Witness Filinenko was detained, now on home arrest. Maria Vasilyeva and Vitaly Zabuga, investigators of Pechersk Department of Interior Affairs Ministry. Vasilyeva on home arrest, Zabuga on bail, now free. Police officers Tsigelnik, Vitko, Kabernik are 2 detained, on bail, now free. They are at home and don't feel any burden on the situation they are in. Moreover, none of the officers of the SWAT group was brought to trial. As soon as the fuss started, they were sent to take part in an anti-terrorist operation. What are they doing there? Go on robbing civilians? Or smuggle the cars across the border with separatists?
Все, что здесь ценное увидите, выбирайте себе пацаны, хуже же, ну что это такое, это что такое украшение? Ну типа говорят, что они какие-то мощные, там, охуенные. Охуенно? Так что берем и посадим.
The chiefs of the Prosecutor General's office don't want much this fact case to be investigated, as there is a pattern there. Igor Brikov comes to the Prosecutor General's office as to his working place, hoping to move the case from the stalemate. But neither personal visits nor official letters asking to handle the robbery brings any results. The Prosecutor General writes off every time the same. At present, the investigation is in progress. You will be informed about the results. The Director's office is stuffed with these write-offs. I've got 3 files like this. By now, none of the organizers of the Graff search is brought to respond. Alexander Harlov, deputy prosecutor of the Pechersk district of the city, initiated the search in the Graff store, personally appointed prosecutor Savchuk as the chief of the procedure. Now Harlov has been promoted. Oleg Vasilyev, prosecutor of the Pechersk district, asked the head of the emergency service of Ukraine to provide staff to crash the safes during the search in Graff. Goes on to work in prosecution. Promoted. Viktor Avdeyev, investigator at the Kyiv City Prosecutor's Office. For a year, he was reading the Graff's case. He was initiating or handling suspicious notices to the participants of the case. He failed to initiate the search of robbers on the video. Avdeyev refused to register Ekaterina Timofeyeva's claim on threats. Has been promoted. The majority stay on the post. And what are they doing? They're planning the next robbery, to rob citizens, to rob the state budget, to rob the country. The state admits its inability to protect its citizens. Even the open letter of the company founders to the President of Ukraine asking to contribute to combating corruption in prosecution didn't help to move the case. Neither director nor the founders are going to give up. They are to see the just punishment of actors, and especially of those who ordered the robbery, if not in Ukraine, then in the European Court of Justice. Now the European Union allocates much money to fight corruption in Ukraine. So why in the country who paid their blood for democratic values is it so difficult to break the back of corruption? A fair trial of the robber prosecutors may be indicative for Ukrainian anti-corruption reform.